Most young doctors step into their attending years with big dreams, but also big financial pressure. After years of training, long hours, and sacrifice, they finally earn a real paycheck, only to find themselves buried under enormous student loan debt, family obligations, and the emotional weight of needing that income to keep everything afloat. Today's episode is about the truth that often gets overlooked. Income is the engine behind every financial goal: paying off debt, investing, supporting your family, changing jobs, doing locums, starting a business, buying a house. None of it is possible if your ability to earn suddenly stops. And too many young physicians underestimate how fragile that income really is. Our guest understands this better than almost anyone. Dr. Nii Darko is a board certified trauma surgeon, entrepreneur, and host of the nationally recognized Docs Outside the Box podcast. He and his wife started their careers with over $600,000 in student loan debt and paid it off in just a few years through disciplined financial choices, thoughtful career decisions, and a deep understanding of how vital it is to protect the income that makes everything else possible. Today, he's here to share what he wishes every resident and new attending knew about money, risk, income, and building a life with real flexibility and freedom. So welcome, Dr. Darko.
Hey, Jamie, thank you very much. And I appreciate that introduction. It's been a long time. So I guess you know me better than most people actually at this point.
I know we met really early on in your career. And so
Yeah,
when I named all of those different changes, I think I was kind of there for all of those. You know, you
everything.
were getting started and then your career, even way before the podcast and all of
Yes.
that. So for people listening, maybe kind of walk us through sort of your journey from early on and your story.
Yeah. The other thing that you probably, I don't know if you knew, but you were involved in is you are the catalyst as to how we started to pay off our student loan debt, right?
Really? How did that
Oh
come
yeah,
about?
absolutely, absolutely. So me and Renee, we got married. So I had disability insurance, and I got the person who I met to get my disability insurance. This was in Miami. I don't know if you remember, I had disability insurance that was way too expensive. But I met this person at a club in Miami when I was in my last year of
Of course,
fellowship, which
because that's
which
where
she
you should meet your advisors. Yes.
right, and I didn't learn the lesson, and the disability insurance was too high.
Yes.
Then me and Renee got married, and then we were really kind of looking at our finances, and we were merging things, and we're like, wait, like between our disability insurance, and then we also had a whole life plan. We're putting more money into those two things than we are into our student loans, than we are into our savings. So we contacted the guy and said, hey, listen, like, first of all, you didn't call us to let us know that, hey, since, we've gotten married, do we need to change beneficiaries, all these different things? Do we need to reconsider certain things? But not only that, listen, like, the price is too damn high. Like,
Yeah.
this disability insurance is too expensive. Can we look at other things? And he said, listen, you guys just need to budget better, basically. And he was right. We did need to budget better. But also, like, that kind of started a process where we were doing research and we're like, wait, we're paying way too much for this. That's how we found you.
Hmm.
And then that kind of started this whole process of, okay, listen, like, what do we need? What are we paying too much for? What is the basic necessities that we need to take care of? And then also, like, we need to like put some more funds towards this debt because this is not going to work. The amount that's we're going to end up paying at the end of 15 years, 20 years, I don't know if the return on investment is really what, we signed up for. So yeah, you
Yeah,
were
you
there
you
for the
guys had a
beginnings.
lot of debt too. It was like 600,000.
662 for student loan debt. And then we
Wow.
also had a house that I should not have gotten when I was in residency. So remember, this is '06, '07 when I got
Yeah,
this house,
yeah.
when everybody could get a house, right?
Yes.
And then Renee had some IRS debt. So we probably had realistically around 850, 900 of debt in general. The
So
majority,
your
like you
light
said,
bulb moment was, let's take a look. We're paying too much in this. Why are we putting it
correct.
all towards insurance when everything's out of control?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And then you're looking at the salary. It's like there's no way that our salary is going to be able to take care of this in 1, 2, or 3 years. We have to be really smart about this. Right.
so
And
tell
yeah.
people what you did because I do remember. So we said at this point, I mean, yes, you were paying way too much. Let's get a much less expensive plan, but let's make sure you're also properly insured. So if something does happen and you can't work or one of you dies, you're properly insured.
Yeah. So, what ended up happening basically is there's this like naivete that you have as a physician or even in residency and even as a med student that like, yeah, eventually when I graduate, everything will be taken care of because I'm going to be making more, right? Every single decision that I need to make once I graduate will be easy because I have money.
Yeah.
That's not the case.
No.
That's not the case at all.
Well, it could
Yeah,
be the case if you make the right decisions.
correct. Correct.
More
If you
money
don't make,
does mean more options if you do it properly.
I agree with you 100%.
If you don't inflate your lifestyle. Yes.
So you're talking about folks who, like a lot of times people get upset when I say this, but there really isn't that big of a difference between athletes who all of a sudden, they go through the AAU system or they of a certain demographic financially, and then all of a sudden they hit the big leagues and they're making a significant amount of money. And a lot of them, they don't know how to write checks and so forth. So they don't manage their money well. Well, the same thing could happen to physicians who, if you didn't learn some of these decisions of investing or saving or even just maybe not listening to other folks who are telling you to invest in this fantastic thing here or this glitz and glam over there, you can make the same mistakes. So
Hmm.
what we found out is that, okay, we have this ton of student loan debt. We decided to merge our finances. We have to be very smart about how we're going to pay this off, mainly because the debt means that we have to keep working in a facility or in places that we don't want to work in, right? It means that we had to be far away from our family because we couldn't afford to live in New York and New Jersey, which is where our family was from. And then it just felt way too restricting. We didn't like having all this debt. So we decided that, okay, well, one, we have to be able to get things that protect our income. So one, we need to get term life insurance and we need to get term life insurance that makes sense for both of us. So we did that. Then we need to get disability insurance to protect, literally, as everybody hears this, protect my hands, right?
Hmm.
And same thing for my wife. But it has to be
And your
something that,
wife is an OB, correct?
yeah, yeah,
Okay. Yeah, yeah.
she's
So
an
got to protect
OB.
her hands too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So we need something that is competitive and we need something that makes sense. And that's when we contacted you, right?
Hmm.
So now that we protect our ability to make money, now we have to figure out, well, how do we make sure that we continue to keep money in our accounts and do it the right way, right? So the biggest expenditure after that would have been our student loans. And then you throw on top of that, our interest rates for our federal loans were 2 and 3% because, we're older. So,
Hmm.
we were in school around the early 2000s when you can do that. But our private loans, which we used to get our MBAs while in medical school, were like anywhere between 8 and 13%,
Oh my God. Wow.
right? And that was between me and my wife about $130,000. So we said, okay. My wife at the time was working part time. I was working full time. So we made a really decisive decision that, listen, we're going to continue to live like residents. So we're going to live on her part time salary. And when, like, me and my wife, we can live on a part time salary, no problem.
Well,
Not
you
only did
had
we,
been during residency. Yeah.
right,
Yeah.
we were doing it,
Yeah.
well, and
Yeah.
so we lived on a part time salary. And then we used whatever was left of her salary. And then we used all of my salary to put towards student loans. And we said we were going to do this in about 5 years. Our financial advisor before that point had us on like a 15-year plan. And we knew
Hmm.
like this just wasn't going to work. So Renee had called Sally Mae and found out from them, okay, give me how much I have to pay if I do it in a year. All right, that's impossible. Give me 2 years if we pay off this. What's the payments going to be? What is it going to be in 3 years, 4 years, and then so forth. So when I came home one day, she was like, listen, I think we can do better, right? With the amount that we're saving, the amount that, we're not spending much money on different things. Like we can literally pay these loans off anywhere between 3 to 5 years. And I was like, show me the math. And she showed it to me.
Wow.
And I was like, who pays off their loans early? Right. So I was skeptical and I just didn't want to move in that direction. She's like, but we should, right? This is the reason why we're living in the middle of central Pennsylvania because we can't afford to live in New York, right? That affects us. We possibly, would like to be closer to our family, but we can't. It's like there's a whole bunch of different decisions that financially we're making.
But
So we
those are the
decided to do that.
sacrifices you need to make
Oh yeah,
with that goal in mind. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. That was a big pain point for us. So we
Yeah.
decided to move forward with that, and there were months where we were making like $15,000 or $18,000 checks that were just going straight to Sally Mae,
Hmm.
straight to Sally Mae. But our interest rates, our interest, the amount of compounding interest you could see each month was just decreasing dramatically, right? And that was really what was pushing me to continue to look. I'll even pick up extra work. So I would pick up extra shifts. I would do locums. I
Well,
don't
you
know if
had the
you already.
satisfaction knowing if you can see it going down. That was
Yeah,
that kept driving you.
yeah. I mean, there was interest. There was months where interest would be like 3,000 a month, or
Wow.
2,000 a month, and then you could see like it started being like 1,500 a month. Then it would come down to 1,000 a month. And you're like, yes, yes, because that part was the most painful part for me, the interest, because you're like, well, nothing is coming from that. I might as well
Hmm.
just take that $1,000, open my window, and just let
And
it fly
just,
out
yeah,
the.
exactly.
That's the painful part, right? Because I'm
Yeah.
like, well, my mom was a nurse's aide. My dad, was a field engineer. He'd work on these computers at the the Fed in New York. These the old school check sorting
Yeah.
machines. So for me, like money was just like something that I equate with hard work. My parents were lower, middle class. So it was just like, to spend that much money for me was almost like a slap in the face of my parents. So I was like, I'm
Yeah.
not wasting this money, right? Just because, it's there. So we were just paying it off. And, there were times where we had a budget of only $200 for groceries, right? And we only used cash. And to my mom, to my dad, to friends who were not in the medical field, they were like, "You guys are nuts! Like, why are you as doctors spending $200 a month? Why are you using cash? Like, you guys are just,
But it was all part of your plan. It was your discipline
yeah."
to be able to
They
do
didn't
it.
understand. They didn't
Yeah.
understand. They didn't get it.
Well, it's
But
just so
we
much
knew.
easier to use a credit card because it just, yeah, you don't feel it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It was some. It was. It brought us closer, right? Because it helped us to understand that if we work together, we really can accomplish anything. But then it also helped us to realize, over those first 3 years, and this is us being married, like finances, yes, that's important, but also at the same time, like let's spend some time with each other. Let's focus on the things that are really important. We don't need a big vacation. We don't need this big car. Like me and you, we all we got, and I
Yeah,
think
but
that
you
made
were
us
on the same
stronger.
page and you were in it
Yeah.
together. And so, how long did it take? Like, at what point did you finally get it all paid off?
So we started October 2014. We finished January 2017.
So,
So it was
a
three
little over
years.
3 years.
Yeah.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's
It was
incredible.
really
So,
impressive.
you sped it up. That was a lot faster than you initially anticipated.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. You just because the interest was accruing less and less with all these significant payments, we were just making like literally compounded progress. That I was telling my wife, I was like, I think we're gonna be under 4 years, and she's like, you think so? I was like, yeah, I think we might be going
Wow.
faster than that. And then you just see it, and it's like, okay, hey, like we don't. I don't think we're gonna get to the end of 2018, 27. Now we're talking, and January was done. That was it.
So, tell me what it was like once you finally finished paying it off.
I felt like there was this huge monkey off my back. Like there was obviously no popping of
Did you finally at
champagne.
least go out to dinner and celebrate or do something?
Oh yeah, come on now, yeah. Because now like we budgeted very aggressively, so now that budget line item that was for student loans. Now we have to figure out what we're gonna do in terms of discretionary fund. But yeah, we had a nice dinner. We had a good time. But like I just felt like free.
Yes.
And it wasn't just like free, like, oh man, I don't have to think about these student loans. It really helped me with my job. It really helped me how I interacted with my colleagues, negotiating with hospitals and making certain decisions. So, just so you know, like around that same time, I stopped being employed also.
You
And
stopped being
that's when
employed?
yeah, that's when we said to each other, I was like, you know what? Like, I don't want to be employed anymore. I want to just do what's called locum tenens or
Yeah,
independent
that's when you
contracting.
switched to doing the locum work. I do remember that
Yeah.
because I think we had to
Yeah.
make some modifications in your policy
Yeah.
because
Absolutely.
you want to make sure you get your policy. It's easier to get, increase the policy while you have a job and the stable income, and then you can just take it with you.
Absolutely. So I felt
So
free
did
to
you
make those
so
type of
are you
decisions.
still doing locum or did you ever go back?
I'm still doing locums
Still doing
100%.
locum. Okay.
Yeah.
And then at what point did you decide to start the podcast?
Oh, I started 2016, so this was during
Okay.
our
So in
our
during that
payoff.
process.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. I was listening to a lot of podcasts about debt payoff, a lot. So I was like, well, why don't I start my own? And I'll interview doctors who are doing some really interesting things outside of clinical medicine. And that's how we started. And then, this is the wild, wild west days. So this is when everybody is, all you have to do is say you're going to follow a podcast and the downloads would be there and we would just do very well. And we've just kind of changed our direction a bunch of times. But yeah, we're still here podcasting, talking about, money and medicine and even pop culture at times.
Yeah. So what kind of patterns do you see of the people that you interview when you're talking about, because you like to interview people that kind of do unconventional type of work.
Yeah. Yeah. I think the biggest, what I've noticed a lot is, like particularly when I interview millennials or people even younger than that, the number one thing that they really want is, we say autonomy, but basically they just want to be in control of their life. Like they want to be in charge of the schedule. Money is really not that important to them from what I've realized. It's really the ability to say, maybe in 3 months, I just want to not show up to work and I want to take a vacation. Or maybe in 5 years, I just want to completely take a gap year. Or, maybe is it possible I can do like Monday through Thursday and then have Friday off so I can spend time with my kids? They just are way more interested in lifestyle
Hmm.
than
And
my
quality of
generation
life. And yeah,
and
yeah.
the generation before. And as a result, like they are, I think, more they think about money more not in terms of how much money I can accumulate, but more of how can money help me get that lifestyle, which I think is really impressive. And
Hmm.
sometimes I find myself a little bit jealous, like, man, I wish I could have talked that way when I was in residency, or trying to climb up that path. Because I think I'm like the last year I think of Gen X, right?
Hmm.
So still kind of modeled and mentored by Gen X folks, whereas the millennials and the Gen Ys, I don't know what they're getting their inspiration from, but we take a lot from them, I think, in terms of the
So do you
lifestyle.
think they look at money in a different way?
I think so. I think they
Yeah.
do. I think they look at it more as a tool.
Hmm.
I think for them, accumulating it is important, but I think for them, it's more of, well, what life can I have? What kind of lifestyle can I have from this? I think they're way more open about talking about their lifestyle than in terms of the highest amount of salary that they can get. Because I
Do you
think once
think
you,
they're as disciplined as you were?
that's a
Like
good
as a
question.
whole, do you think they're as disciplined to pay down the debt, set the money aside, set, save for retirement, delayed
That
gratification, or do you think they're kind of more about living in the now?
that's a good question. I don't know the answer to that, but I feel like they're more aware of the options that are available to them, which for us, even that, like for me, I think that I was a unicorn, right? Outside of a few other doctor, personal finance podcasters and bloggers out there, I think for the most part, most people are like, well, you just try to get as much money as possible and then let the chips lay at the end where they will, right? You will be able to pay for everything eventually. But in terms of like trying to keep your expenses low, living like a resident. I don't think that was widely talked about during
Hmm.
my time and during my ascent in medical school and in residency like it is now. So in terms of discipline for the Gen Ys and Gen Zs, I don't know if they're disciplined, but I do know that they're way more aware of the effects of student loans. They're way more aware that they need to invest their money, negotiate, all those different things. But I think that's because it's
Yeah.
so widespread now.
Yeah. Well, I think they have more access to more podcasters and more
Oh yeah.
media and people telling them those things, not just the people in their own environments. So there's a wider swath of people telling them that.
Say thank you. You guys are welcome.
All
You should
right,
thank us
we're
for
going to
that.
take a break, but when we come back, Dr. Darko is going to share the moment he realized just how vulnerable physicians really are and why losing even a few months of income can derail years of hard work. Stay with us. So I got to put down the time, 8:54. Fine. Okay. All right, we're back with Dr. Nii Darko, and we're talking about how protecting your income early creates real financial flexibility for physicians. Okay, so we're talking about being disciplined, paying down debt, and about how different generations kind of look at things. Why do you think, going back to when you were with a financial planner early on, why do you think a lot of these people sort of overlook protecting the income when that really drives all of the other decisions? Meaning, without the income, there wouldn't be the ability to pay down the loans, to take the vacations, to do any of those things. Why is that overlooked?
I think that I think there's a lot that happens. There's a lot that happens to get through med school, right? There's a lot of memorization. There's a lot of things that you have to take care of. And I think what ends up happening is, once you get out of residency and you're starting your life, there's a there's a moment of relief that you have, and you're like, I just want to live my life. And
I
then all of a
earned it.
sudden, I
Yes.
earned it. So then when you have a financial advisor who's coming back and speaking to you about discipline, and I'm like, listen, like I just did that for 12 years. Didn't you see the results of this, right? I went to
Exactly.
school where everybody was in Miami. I was, studying when everybody was doing this. I was here. And now you're talking to me about A, B, C, and D. What? No way.
Yeah.
So I think what ends up happening is I think financial advisors end up crafting their messages in ways that they feel that the physician or the person wants to hear it, if you know what I mean, right? Like you're
Yeah.
only ready to take action when you're ready to take action, right? It's like with my kids, like, if I'm trying to teach them math and they're pushing back, it's like, look, I can't want this more than you. When you're ready, you're going to be ready,
So
right? But
the
hopefully it's
internal
not too late.
motivation versus the external motivation. Yeah.
Exactly. But I still need to craft a message so that they can understand it. So
Hmm.
I think what ends up happening, or what ended up happening, is once we started to be a bit more transparent about disability insurance, what can happen, the statistics, like once it becomes readily available for people to read, right? Also at the same time, once people have started to understand about, mental health and understanding that, and women are understanding about pregnancy and going into surgery and all of these different fields, people start to realize like, wow, like my ability to make money that's important, but the ability so that I can show up every day, that's just as important. And I have to do
Hmm.
this in a smart way. So I
Yeah.
think that's kind of collided all at the same time in these late 2000s and 2000 teens and so forth. Is once we're starting to speak more about it, people are way more cognizant about it. People then ask their financial advisors, hey, like, what are we doing right now? Because I need to make sure that, like, I'm protecting my hands and I'm doing it in a smart way, or I'm protecting my career and I'm doing it in a smart way. For me, my wife underwent IVF, so we were very cognizant of what could happen, right? She's OB and she understands the complications that could occur with doing IVF, right? The
Hmm.
possible ectopics, all the other procedures that could occur. So we were very keenly aware that, depending on what could happen, she could be out of business and not working for several months, maybe even longer if there's a major complication. For me, it hit at home for me when you remember my finger. I don't know if you remember my
Yeah,
finger,
I
but
do. Yes,
yeah,
yes.
yeah,
So
five
share
years
that.
ago,
Yes.
yeah, 5 years ago, my mother had a stroke and she recovered fine, but she was living with us and she had a hospital bed and she recovered. And, we needed to get rid of the hospital bed, particularly the mattress. The town where we lived in would not take the mattress unless we could figure out a way to cut it up and so forth. Well, um, my dumb self, I said, well, I can cut it up myself.
Hmm.
And I started like rolling the bed in a way so that I can like cut it. And I rolled it, and I don't know if anybody can see it online, but the way in which my fingers were, I think I was putting too much tension on this finger right here. And I literally, the best way I could describe it is I felt like a rubber band fell off, like came off my finger.
Ew.
Like the ability to move my finger was really limited. And the next day I was supposed to leave for a locums assignment,
Oh God.
4 hours away. And I just started freaking out. I couldn't bend my finger. I use my left hand and my left finger all the time for laparoscopic procedures. So I'm freaking out. We end up going to an urgent care center, and basically, like the ligament, I had torn the ligament to the distal portion of my finger. I had to have surgery,
Oh
a
my
couple
God.
days later, and I was out for about 8 weeks, right? The issue of that is I couldn't operate for 8 weeks, right? Every time I would wash my hands, the possibility of my finger moving would reset the whole process. So that's why I needed to have surgery on my finger, and then I couldn't move it. The best I can do was this. So I had to make a deal with my colleagues where for the next several weeks, I couldn't operate. So what I did is I took all the call, and they would stay at home, and I would admit people. I would see the patients. Anybody who needed an operation, I would just tell and call my partners, even at 2 a.m. Hey, listen, this person needs an operation. I need you to come in. You
Wow.
know,
So you were fortunate you were at least able to pivot into something else. And you
correct.
were also fortunate it was only 8 weeks. I mean, if that was permanent, what would have happened to you?
Oh, if that was permanent, then me and you would have to have some extensive talks. I'm like, what does this mean, right? But luckily that wasn't the case.
Hmm.
But I remember I called you and I said, well, what if this has to go longer? Like, what if I don't get the flexion back on my finger here? Like, how does that
Yeah.
work out? And you kind of walked me through the process, and hopefully, luckily I didn't need that. I was able to rehab before that.
But
But
that's
we
probably the
would
first thing you thought of when you had the injury going, how am I going to work?
exactly. Yeah,
How am I going to do this?
as the doctor's telling me this, he's like, I'm like, you're gonna drill a wire into my finger and it's gonna stay
Like my
straight.
my hands are my livelihood.
What are you
Yes.
talking about? What?
Yeah.
And he's like, yeah, when we take it out. I was like, take it out? He's like, yeah, when you take it out in the clinic, then, you're going to be able to eventually learn how to flex it back. I'm like, learn how to flex it back? You start to, when you hear these terms, you're like, this is long term, and how am I going to work? I need to bring in cash. Now, we had a healthy emergency fund at the time, but you start to sweat. And you're like,
Yeah. But how
how
long could
long
that
term?
go? Yes,
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So what advice are you going to give to your boys, your adorable boys,
Oh, for you mean
for
in
just
terms,
financial planning and just their future? Like, someday when they're adults, what are you going to tell them?
the biggest thing that we're doing it right now is, they see us use our cards so much, they don't understand I've noticed that they don't understand the concept of money, like
Hmm.
how money can leave your account and how it works. So,
And you do
my,
have to go pay that card back. Yes. Yeah.
exactly.
It's not magic. Yes.
They don't see the exchange of a dollar or dollars. They just see a card get swiped and they don't
Hmm.
understand that something is debited out of the account. So we have started to basically give them lessons in money right now. So my oldest is 8, youngest is 6. They have allowances, right? And it's not allowance for doing chores because we feel like the chores are part of the responsibility of being in the house. But we give them like $3 a week, right?
Hmm.
$3 a week, and they can use that if they want to go to the local store, the grocery store, or if they want to buy something extra for lunch, they can use that. But also, if they get punished or if they do some behavior that doesn't make sense, hey, give me that dollar, give me that $2, $3.
Hmm.
But what we're basically helping them to understand is the concept of trading using money so that they understand that this hurts when I give this money away. This is something that used to be in my account. So I want to save it and I want to use it for something that, makes sense. Maybe I want to buy a certain toy that I've always wanted, or maybe I want to buy something like a slice of pizza that I've been thinking about for the last week or so. So we're teaching them the concept of money. And then also at the same time, the other thing that we're teaching them about is like work is important. Work is important. And the concept of working and creating something so that people possibly can pay you for that is very important. So we teach them, yeah, you're probably going to have to work for someone for a couple of years, but the possibility of you starting your own business and fixing a solution for someone
Hmm.
is just as important, and maybe the most important thing if you could be a business owner. So that concept, if you can if you guys can understand me talking to an 8-year-old, and that's what we're teaching them is like, mom and
And the
dad, look,
autonomy and having control over
yeah,
it. Yes.
yeah, mom and dad were both we're physicians, we're surgeons, but we've just decided that we wanted to be our own business owners, and
Hmm.
this is how it goes. There's some good times, there's some bad times, but we are in charge of our own careers and we're in charge of our own lives. This is how it works.
And you're able to be more present with them too, which I'm sure they don't totally appreciate at this point. So,
Jamie, give me 1 second,
no
please. I'm
problem.
sorry to my Hello, Jamie, are you there?
Oh, I'm here. Yeah,
Okay, sorry, my phone rang and then it hit my Bluetooth, so I couldn't hear you. So I'm sorry about that. It's
no problem.
no more interruptions. Sorry about that.
So I guess the last thing I would just say is, you talk to a lot of young doctors, a lot of attendings. So what advice would you tell those people, maybe if they have a lot of debt, or what advice would you give them based on your experience?
I think the biggest advice I would tell them is that listen, you got to envision where you want your career in 10 years, and you also have to understand where medicine is going. And
Hmm.
if you really want to be in charge of your career, that means when you work, how you work, who you work with, and how you fit in the whole healthcare system, then you really have to look back on your finances and the intentional moves that you're making. And I know you may look at me and say, well, what does that mean, doc? Like, I don't know what that means. Yeah, like how much student loan debt you have determines, how much call you're going to put up with, or what kind of transgressions that happen with you at work, or if you can't get along with your colleagues and if you want to stay at your job. That all plays a role. If you don't have enough for an emergency fund, if you want to leave your job but you are worried that you don't have enough, if you don't have proper insurance, all of that stuff plays into what type of situation you will put up with. So me and my wife, we thought about all of those different situations, and we were able to pinpoint that the biggest issue that causes us to probably, or that would force us to take things that we don't want to take, the student loans. So the biggest
Hmm.
advice I give to them is, look, what do you want to put up with? What don't you want to put up with? Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Then work yourself backwards. If it's a financial issue that's causing you to make those decisions, then you got to take care of that. That means
Yeah.
that you may have to live like a resident for a little bit. You may have to decrease your student loans. You may have to get more of an emergency fund so that if you want to, do locums, if you want to own your own private practice, if you want to own your own, if you want to do a side hustle, you can give yourself the runway to do that and give yourself the space. If you may want to do something, whatever it may be, just know that if you can take that pain point, whatever that may be, take care of that. And that's the biggest advice that I give them. It just so happens the majority of them, the biggest pain point is their loans, the
Yeah.
ability to save and so forth. So that's where we start. So a lot
Because
of
I think
times
a
they'll
lot of
ask
them
me,
they don't think about the consequences. They don't think about the financial stuff. They just think I'm going to get a big paycheck. And like you said, I'll just take care of everything.
right?
So
They
they don't think about
they ask
losing
me
the
all the
paycheck,
time.
and they don't think about the interest on the loans. They don't think about the consequences of all of it.
No, they don't. They all ask me. They're like, "Hey, doc, now that you work for yourself, like, when you look for a locums gig, what's the number one thing you look at?" I was like, "I always look at what the schedule is, and I always look at, how long they need me for, how long I can get out. Then I look at, who am I going to be working with, and then I look at the how much you're going to pay me, because
Hmm.
I've realized that money is just an exchange of cash, but it's also exchange of time, and
Hmm.
there's no amount of money that you're going to pay me to go to a situation where I hate it every day, right? So that's why I always tell everyone, listen, finances take a big or play a bigger part in your life than you think. It also determines how much BS that you want to put up with.
Yep.
And I've removed that out of my life now. And it's not that money doesn't affect me. It does, but I just feel like spending time with my family, spending time with you, interviewing with you, and talking with you. That's way more important to me than trying to just collect cash and all these different things and not seeing my family, not
And
being the
chasing the
podcast.
dollar, and yeah,
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And paying that huge mortgage and all of those other types of things where you become a
Yep.
slave in situations you don't want to be in. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Nee. I really appreciate it. Thank you for coming on today. It was a great discussion. I actually learned more than even though I already knew your story. So I think you have great advice. I think you're a great role model for your family and to other physicians out there. I think there's a lot to be learned from your experience. So thank you.
Oh, Jamie, thank you for having me on your show, and congratulations to your podcast. This is awesome. It's about time. You have so much information that everybody should be learning from you. So, super excited that you decided to do this, and I think you're going to knock it out the park.
Awesome. Thank you.